Imagine being trapped in a cold, dark room with no way out. The walls around you are lined with soundproof material. The air is damp, and the only light comes from a dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. Days turn into weeks, hope fades, and the person responsible for your suffering, a seemingly ordinary man living in your neighborhood. This is the terrifying reality of James Caldwell, a man who built a secret dungeon beneath his home to imprison his victims. For years, he carried out his horrific crimes right under the noses of his unsuspecting community. But how did he manage to conceal such a monstrous secret for so long? And what ultimately led to his downfall? Today, we uncover the shocking case of the kidnapper who built a dungeon beneath his home. But before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to our channel for more gripping true crime stories. To understand how James Caldwell became one of the most disturbing criminals in modern history, we have to go back to his early life. Born in 1975 in Springfield, Missouri, he grew up in what appeared to be an ordinary household. But behind closed doors, his upbringing was far from normal. James was raised by an overbearing mother and an absent father. He endured years of psychological abuse, which left deep emotional scars. Classmates remember him as a quiet, socially awkward boy who often retreated into his own world. As he grew older, his fascination with control and domination became more apparent. He held jobs that allowed him to manipulate people, and neighbors described him as a loner with an unsettling demeanor. But no one could have guessed the horrifying secret he was hiding beneath his home. During this time, he meticulously planned his dungeon. He studied construction, soundproofing techniques, and even installed an elaborate security system to ensure no one would ever discover his underground prison. As Caldwell entered adulthood, he became obsessed with true crime stories, particularly those involving abductions and captivity. He viewed them not with horror, but with fascination. He meticulously researched past cases, taking notes on what worked and what led to the perpetrators' downfalls. He learned from their mistakes, carefully crafting his own methods to ensure he wouldn't get caught. His interest in home renovation provided the perfect cover for the extensive modifications he made to his basement, transforming it into a hidden chamber of torment. His work as a contractor also allowed him access to materials without drawing suspicion. He bought soundproofing panels under the guise of home improvement projects. He installed reinforced steel doors, modified air vents for circulation, and even built a secondary exit disguised as a maintenance hatch. Every detail was planned with precision. To outsiders, he was just another handyman. No one suspected what lay beneath the surface. Caldwell's obsession soon turned into action. He spent years practicing manipulation techniques, honing his ability to deceive and control. He frequented online forums where he could anonymously discuss fantasies with like-minded individuals, solidifying his twisted ideology. He believed he was above the law, that he had crafted the perfect crime. By the time he was ready to act, he had convinced himself that his victims were merely objects, pieces in a game he had complete control over. He began scouting for potential targets, identifying individuals who fit his ideal victim profile: young, vulnerable, often overlooked by society. He carefully planned his encounters, rehearsing conversations and alibis. His ability to appear harmless was his greatest weapon. And then the kidnappings began. It started with Amanda Collins, a 19-year-old college student with a passion for photography. On September 14, 2012, she vanished without a trace. Her family and friends searched desperately, but no clues surfaced. Then, Rachel Evans, a 24-year-old waitress, disappeared under eerily similar circumstances in November of the same year. One by one, people went missing, but there was no pattern, no clear connection. Some were young women, others were teenagers, and one was even a child. Law enforcement struggled to link the cases. Meanwhile, James Caldwell continued his reign of terror. Caldwell had perfected his technique. He used a combination of charm and deceit to lure his victims. He would offer young women rides home, pretending to be a concerned stranger. Other times, he posed as a handyman or delivery worker to gain access to their homes. Once he had them in his grasp, there was no escape. Once inside his dungeon, victims were stripped of their identities. Their every move was controlled. Some were subjected to psychological torment, while others endured unimaginable horrors. He devised cruel rules, ensuring complete submission. Caldwell documented everything, keeping detailed notes on each victim's behavior, their fears, and how he broke them down over time. His cruelty knew no bounds. Over the years, his methods evolved. He installed a hidden surveillance system, allowing him to monitor his captives from any part of the house. He rationed food and water, creating an atmosphere of total dependence. Victims who tried to resist were met with punishment, sometimes isolation, sometimes worse. He wanted to break them, to mold them into obedient prisoners. Caldwell took pleasure in psychological manipulation. He convinced some of his captives that no one was looking for them, that they had been forgotten. Others were forced to write letters to their families, making it seem like they had willingly disappeared. This added to the confusion surrounding their disappearances and delayed any serious investigation. But despite his meticulous planning, Caldwell made a crucial mistake. He grew overconfident, careless, and that was when his empire of terror began to crumble. For years, families searched for answers. Law enforcement combed through leads, but nothing stuck, until one brave victim changed everything. On March 3, 2018, Megan Parker, a 17-year-old high school student who had been missing for 3 months, did the impossible. After years in captivity, she found a weakness in her captor's routine. A door left unlocked, a lapse in attention. Gathering every ounce of courage, she escaped. A frantic 911 call led police to the suburban home of James Caldwell. What they found inside sent chills through even the most seasoned investigators. The basement was more than just a hiding place, it was a prison designed for long-term captivity. Chains, restraints, a hidden passage leading to a soundproof room, it was the stuff of nightmares. Investigators uncovered evidence linking him to multiple disappearances. Photos, personal items, journals documenting his depraved thoughts. The truth was out, and the world watched in horror as details of his crimes came to light. The trial of James Caldwell was one of the most shocking in history. Survivors testified, their voices shaking as they recounted their time in captivity. Families of those who never returned demanded justice. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours, delivering a guilty verdict on all counts. He was sentenced to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring he would never see the outside world again. For the survivors, the road to recovery was long and painful. Some found solace in speaking out, raising awareness about abductions and survival. Others chose to remain out of the public eye, haunted by their trauma. Communities reevaluated safety measures. Discussions about personal security, background checks, and law enforcement vigilance became more pressing. The case of James Caldwell serves as a harrowing reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. It reminds us to remain vigilant, to trust our instincts, and to look out for one another. But most of all, it reminds us of the resilience of the human spirit. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We bring you the most gripping true crime stories, shedding light on the darkest corners of human nature. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.